All right, today I wanted to talk about a couple of things with regards to run and gun filmmaking, which is kind of what I do. Even though I'm a narrative filmmaker, I'm on the run all the time, and I'm the kind of creator where I could be like driving around, or I could be on the train, or I could be walking or whatever. I always have my camera with me, and if I see a location that I think is going to be pretty cool to shoot in, I'm going to stop and I'm going to set it up and I'm going to create some kind of art. I'm going to do something. So there's a couple things I want to talk about. Now, first of all, this is also going to be a test of the autofocus for this camera, the Panasonic S5, in a really crazy light kind of day. You know, there's like very few clouds in the sky, but it's really bright. I'm shooting in Vlog because I get the best out of this camera shooting in Vlog, and I want to see how well the autofocus does. I mean, I don't really rely on it too much, but I'm just kind of curious, and you know, to just touch on that for a quick minute, I don't really think it makes that much of a difference. You know what I mean? Like, I think the autofocus is good enough in this camera for what I need it to do. It kind of locks me on to certain, you know, subjects or whatever when I'm shooting, but then I usually switch it to autofocus anyway, to manual focus anyway, because I want to make sure I don't get any kind of pulsing or anything like that. And I just, you know, I'm not in the mood to get any kind of surprises, you know, so I do use autofocus, but I think I use it differently than most people. And as far as YouTube videos like this, I mean, I could easily manual focus myself right now. So again, I'm just doing this because I'm kind of curious, and if it doesn't work, you'll probably never see this video. So anyway, run and gun shooting. Here's the thing that I wanted to share. You know, often filmmakers, people who do tutorials, YouTubers, people like that, they talk about the best camera is the one that you have with you. And, you know, I used to think that that's kind of like, that's just a thing that everybody says, you know, because then they do a tutorial and tell you which camera that they think is the best. And then 3 days later, they show you another camera that they think is the best, which means it must have become the best over the last 3 days, because 3 days ago you thought something else was the best, and then 2 months later something else is the best. So, you know, the thing is, everything is really good right now. Like, all of these cameras are pretty amazing, you know what I mean? And so I think, well, I'm going to speak from my case. The reason I decided to get another camera is because I'm about to shoot another film, and I wanted multiple cameras because I need to get multiple angles in the same shot, and I'm shooting 99% of this film all by myself. So I wanted another camera. I actually wanted 3 cameras because I'm including my LG V60 now. Like, I shot a film on an LG V40. Now I have an LG V60, which I think has a little bit better image than my other LG, but that might just be my imagination. But either way, they're both incredible. And the cool thing about the LG phones is that they allow me to have manual control over my ISO, my white balance. I can manually focus, my aperture, everything, you know? So the thing that you definitely have to have if you're a run and gun filmmaker is, if you're using your phone, first of all, and so wait a minute, let me back up a little bit. What I'm trying to say is this: sometimes if you're running around and you see something that you want to shoot right away, you might not have time to get your camera out and set everything up and put it on a tripod like I have right now. You know, your phone, if you have a phone that you're relying upon to contribute to your creative work, that's a lot, you know, that's like right there for you to use. It's a faster process. You don't have to set it up. You take it out of your pocket and you shoot. If you have a variable ND filter that clips on to your phone. These things are incredible. This one cost me like $18, okay? It's by a company called Neewer. I'll leave some information in the description. It's just a clip. You clip it on your phone. I'll do a close-up and I'll include it here in this video. But this allows you to shoot at 24 frames per second and allows you to keep your 180 rule. And ND filter, crucial. I always carry this with me. It's always in my pocket, always ready to put it on my phone. If I need to shoot something real fast, and I can just pull out my phone and shoot it. And yo, I get the same, I get really great quality from my phone. Good enough at least to include with my camera. And my phone happens to shoot HDR, it shoots RAW. Like, I have a lot of options with that LG phone, even though LG doesn't make phones anymore, they're still all over the place on eBay and Amazon. You can get them used. You can get like a $1,000 LG V60 for 250 bucks. Like I just guided a friend of mine to do that recently, so that's a pretty cool thing. The other thing is, obviously, the reason I bought this Panasonic S5 is because I wanted a full frame camera. You know, I have a crop sensor camera. I have the Sony a6400. I wanted to add a full frame camera to my arsenal. Why? Mainly because of low light capabilities. And so here's a couple of examples of why I bought this camera and why my head is just blown with excitement now, because the low light capabilities of this camera are astounding, just unbelievable. I mean, you know, I only shoot in 2 ISOs on this camera. They're both native. It's 640 and 4000, and I don't shoot in any other ISO with this camera because that's going to get me the best picture quality or, you know, video quality no matter what that I could possibly get out of this camera. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the greatest quality in the world, because that has a lot to do with me and my filmmaking technique and everything that I've learned, but to get the most out of the camera on a basic level from what can you get out of this creative tool, I would recommend highly that you shoot either at ISO 640 or 4000 if you're shooting in log. That's your dual ISO settings for this camera. I believe, you know, if I shoot in a regular picture profile like standard or natural or Cine like V, I think it's called, or Cine D, then I'll shoot my ISO as low as possible. I think I could shoot at 200 ISO, but I'm just trying to get the most out of this tool. I didn't choose it because like I'm a Panasonic fanboy, obviously, because I had a Sony camera and I love Sony stuff, you know. I love the Sony Xperia phone. It's got a great camera in it. I bought this camera because honestly I wanted a Sony a7S III. That to me seemed like the perfect camera for me because, first of all, I know Sony, I know the menu system, I know how to get around the camera. I figured if I got that camera, it would be not all that different from working with the a6400, even though it would now be full frame. But I wanted it because of its low light capability, and it's legendary for that. Like, you know, supposedly the a7S III can see in the dark. But I wasn't trying to spend $4,000 for a new camera. I couldn't, to be honest. So I got this camera for an unbelievable deal. I mean, I got this camera for just under $1,700, like $1,697, I think, and it included the camera, an SD card, which is a lot of money, 50mm f1.8 lens included, a backpack included, a really cool not gimbal, but a little mini tripod included. I mean, you know, a little case for SD cards. I mean, come on, that was included. So I spent $1,800 including tax, free shipping from Adorama for this camera. And it's got, you know, pretty much everything that the Sony a7S III has, except not as good autofocus. But again, I'm not relying on autofocus, and I think if you're a professional filmmaker, or if you're trying to do the best possible work that you could do, whether you're a professional or not, you are not relying on autofocus. I know I say it in every video, and it's probably getting boring already. That's just how I feel about it. I mean, it does make it more convenient, it makes it easier in some cases, but still, I use autofocus to lock things down, and then I switch back over to manual because I am not trying to have any surprises. That way I know, as long as my exposure is right, as long as my framing is what I want, I'm good. It's going to be good. So that's the reason that I bought this camera. So I have a Panasonic S5, I have a Sony a6400, I have my LG V60. I got 3 cameras for this film that I'm working on. And so, yeah, get yourself an ND filter, include your phone in your arsenal. Also, obviously, have an ND filter for your camera so that you could shoot 24 frames per second, which is what I would recommend because that's what most films are shot at. That's what we're used to seeing. That's what cinema has been forever. So you're going to need an ND filter to be able to stay at 24 frames per second. And then you are hooked up. Then it's all about your story and sharing your story and making the best possible film that you can make. being an artist, being the great artist that you are, having fun, and being able to expand your vision and taking it as far as you possibly can, using your gear to the best of your ability and getting the most out of that gear. So that's all I'm going to say right now. I'm standing here in the cold. It is freezing. It was like 75 degrees 4 days ago, and now this morning it was 29 degrees in Poughkeepsie, New York. Right now it's probably about 35. I'm in Croton-on-the-Hudson. You can see I'm at the train station. There's also a beautiful pond over here. I like to shoot here a lot because nobody bothers me. So I come here quite often when I come down this way. I'm living pretty far away from here now, so I don't come here that often. But anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about today. So yeah, I just wanted to share, I guess, what I carry with me, that I never leave home without my camera. I got my camera bag all the time. So I don't have the Sony a6400 with me. That I'm only going to take with me when I specifically know that I'm using it. But I have my Panasonic S5 with me every single day of my life because I am prepared for anything to make art. And I highly recommend, if you are an artist and you're looking to share stories, I would say you do the same thing. All right? We're out.